Hi guys, I thought I would share with you a couple of stories about instructional design theory that I find amusing. Maybe you will too. Back when I was in grad school, I had to take a course on the history of instructional design theories. Now, you've read some summaries of them. I had to read them in the original journal articles that expounded on them at great length and with very deep and impenetrable education speak jargon. There was one in particular by a fellow named Charles Riegluth. I don't think any of you did a piece on him, but it was this very densely written, very carefully worded, kind of made up his own vocabulary and defined his own terms to make sure that he was saying exactly what he wanted to say. And you had to read it very, very carefully and several times. And at the bottom of the first page of the journal article was this paragraph about this big in, I don't know, 3-point type. It was teeny tiny. And it was made up of 2 sentences. It was really dense. And I finally got it translated into English, and what it meant was the results of this research may or may not have any value in the real world. Thanks a lot. He was a student, it turns out, of David Merrill, who is a giant in the field of instructional design and a really nice guy. I had the opportunity to spend several very pleasant days at Dave Merrill's place out in Utah with his Summer Instructional Design Institute, which is hands down the best professional conference I've ever been to. I got to go several years in a row, and it was always extremely high value. Just sitting down having lunch and chatting with the likes of David Jonasson and Jeroen van Marenboer and Claude Ostin. Terrific, terrific time. Now, the highlight, of course, was going over to Dave's on Wednesday night and playing with his model trains in his basement. Well, one time I mentioned this to Dave, and because everybody called him Dr. Dave, I mentioned this Riegluth article, and he laughed. And he said, yes, Charlie was a student of mine, and he was always very careful with his words. And this was really funny because Merrill is well known as an ID theorist, as a serial ID theorist. He has come up with a number of instructional design theories, component display theory, PNet, a whole bunch of things. And we were talking about theories once, and he said, well, let me tell you a story about educational theories. He said, back when I was in grad school, I took a course on elementary analysis, which is like this deep mathematics thing. And the book was a little bitty book. And we went to lecture, and I took notes, and I went home and I read the book. And I went to lecture and took notes, and went home and I read the book. And midterm came, and we all failed spectacularly, just crashed and burned. But I persevered, he said. I continued to go to class and take notes and go home and read the book. I must have read that book 14 or 15 times. And by the time the final exam rolled around, I figured I either knew it or I was absolutely clueless. The final exam, he said, had one question on it. Define a system of mathematics. Great. So I thought a minute, and then I started writing, he said. Let there be an oar and a rubber boot. An oar and a rubber boot. And from the existence, the assumed existence of an oar and a rubber boot, he then proceeded to develop addition, subtraction, multiplication, all the mathematics that you could do with an oar and a rubber boot. He got an A. And he chuckled and he looked at me and he said, all educational theory is an oar and a rubber boot. This one's mine. If you've got a better one, great.